A couple of days ago, light was restored in our house. Electricity was restored. If you're in Nigeria and you know what I mean by light was restored, there hadn't been light for about a week. Immediately after the strike, I think something went bad regarding the supply of power in our area, and so there wasn't light. I had even gone to the distribution company's office to complain because, again, we were burning fuel to, survive. The man had told me that something, I think he called it the feeder, to our street was bad because other people had lights in our area. Like friends had light. People were even talking about how the lights had been steady. You also know, if you're in Nigeria, how painful that is. I got home, there wasn't light. I think light came maybe like 7 hours after the conversation with the man, and we're grateful. That was into the next day. The next day, light was taken for a bit, and then it was restored. When the light was restored, the generator had been on for a bit. And so when the light was restored, somebody changed over. And immediately, bulbs were blinking, things were going off. In my head, because they are fixing the feeder, we didn't even try to find out why. We just guessed they are still trying to fix it. We just turned off all the lights, the fridge, and I was going out. So I wanted to iron. The iron didn't even come on. So there was light, but we thought it was low current. Again, if you're Nigerian, you know what low current is. That is, the light that was supplied is not enough to power anything, not even your bulbs. So I went out. By the time I came back to the house, everything had been normalized. So that was it. We just moved on. A few days after that, my husband and I were talking, and it just said, you know that thing that happened with the low currents, it wasn't from NEPA, which is what we call the supply company. That it wasn't from NEPA, it was us who didn't change over properly. I remember it had happened before. I said, oh, true, it wasn't keyed in. So the light that was supplied was 100%. Let me put it like that. It could power anything we needed to power, but the changeover switch that would allow the power be supplied into our home was not keyed in appropriately. And so the light that was supplied, even though it was 100%, what was going to interpret that light into our house was not keyed in appropriately. So the light was probably on like a 2%, which was even more dangerous for the appliances and the things we had in the house. I did a video with Okwemi Famaki about how that if you are fed in your dreams, eat it, because as a believer, you are not tied down to things like that, because at the end of the day, dreams are not the primary way that God speaks with his children. His primary way. That is, it could be a secondary way, but it's not the primary way. He could use dreams for he used a donkey to speak, but it's not the primary way that God speaks with his children. The first thing you want to ask yourself is, what makes me a child of God? You're believing in Jesus Christ, not believing in God. Believing in Jesus Christ. God is God to all, but he's father to sons alone. Just what I'm saying. So what makes me a believer? It's not believing in God. Even the devil believes in God. Even demons believe in God. It doesn't change their being demons. It doesn't change him being the devil. No. You believe in the God that is revealed through Jesus Christ. You believe in the God that sent his son to die. That you must believe that Jesus was made man. You must believe that Jesus died. You must believe that Jesus rose again. You must believe that Jesus was sin. That he is now a man. Jesus Christ is both fully God and fully man. Then you must believe in his finished works for you. That's what makes you a believer. But a lot of times when people get saved, they don't key in properly. What do I mean? They don't understand the fullness of their salvation. They don't understand the benefits. It's like you complain that you were broke for a long time, and I gave you some money, but I put it in a check. Okay? If you don't understand what a check is, you will think it's a piece of paper. You may even still keep going around being broke. If you don't understand how to go to the bank and cash it with your identity card, even though it has your name, you have to tender an identity card at the bank. If I do not give you the knowledge, or I give you the knowledge and you don't believe what I said, listen to me. Although you have $1 billion in your name, you will not operate in that. You will still operate in lack. It's the same way with salvation. How that salvation has accompaniment. How that you are on the same level with God. But now in the God class. Why? Because the same spirit in God is the same spirit in you. But because a lot of believers are not keyed in appropriately, you now start hearing things like, I'm a believer. I was even a worker in church. Do you not know that you can work in a company and not think your boss is the strongest? You can work in a company just for the salary. You can work in a company just because of the prestige and not believe in the values of the company. So when people say, I was even a worker in church, I was even a believer, yet they fed me in my dream, yet I had spirit pulses. This is why we don't preach our experience, but we preach Christ alone. This is why we don't preach our encounters or the authority of our encounters. I don't care who says that. It is Christ and Christ alone that is our message. It is in the gospel that we take our stand. You can't be keyed into someone's encounter. You can't be keyed into someone's experience. You are keyed into the gospel and the gospel alone. Somebody shared her testimony or the testimony of her sister. In trying to correct me, she actually supported what I had said. This was another video about spirit spouses. And she said, please, let's not negate people's experiences. I really don't understand when Christians say that. Oh, let's not negate people's experience. Just because you have not experienced it does not mean it doesn't exist. I didn't say that it doesn't exist. I said in the life of a believer, it doesn't exist. Are you understanding me? In the life of a believer, this thing does not exist. Why? Because our location is in Christ. So whatever cannot happen in Christ does not exist to someone that lives in Christ. I hope you understand what I just said. And this person, who is a pastor actually, shared testimony of her sister. That her sister was constantly oppressed in her dreams for 20 years. She went from pillar to post according to what she shared. At some point, she got tired and sat down with the word. And in 4 hours, she got free from something that had oppressed her for 20 years. If it existed, trust me, it will not take 4 hours. How? How did she get free? She said she came into the knowledge of the finished works of Christ. And she believed it. Listen, in the 20 years when she was being oppressed, she was a worker in church. In the 20 years she was being oppressed, she believed she was a believer. No, some of you are Christian. You belong to the Christian religion, but you are not a believer in Jesus Christ yet. A lot of you are very vocal. Instead of you to come into the belief, you are there arguing for the other side. I've never understood that. It's just like MTN subscribers really explain the benefits of Glo. Not even Glo now. The benefits of maybe a lesser network. And you are talking about it passionately. We should question your brand loyalty. If you are so energetic about talking about another brand, a much lesser brand that thinks is as high as that brand, a much lesser brand that thinks is as high as that brand, but has been defeated with proof, with evidence. But you, a member supposedly of that brand, is now defending the brand. Christians are saying, I'm a worker in church. I was a worker. I was even a believer. Yet, you see, and other, you are a child. I don't want to be an adult. If this is what your own adulthood is about, your own adulthood is about demons, your own adulthood is about oppression. I mean, are you really painting the picture? Is it really clear to you, or you are not seeing what you are saying? Is it not tasteless, what you're saying? I'm saying it again. Anything that cannot happen to Christ cannot happen to Christ now, because as he is, not as he was. So please stop comparing your reality with the experiences of other people. Stop comparing your reality with the sufferings of other people. The only suffering they recognize in heaven is the suffering of Christ. And that's what produces grace and mercy. I don't care how much you suffer. It doesn't produce grace and mercy. Grace and mercy has already been provided by Jesus Christ. We need to key in properly. We need to know who we are, know what we carry. We can't just say we are believers and treat God as an antidote to the enemy. It's such an insult to the finished works. And some of you are actually being antichrist. You are preaching sermons that are against the finished works of Christ. Do you know that if someone had called me and I said, we all have low current, and they said, no, we don't have, I will be arguing. I will be arguing that no, current is low. My kettle is not on. Am I not living in the same compound with you? Am I not staying in the same house with you? And I will be arguing instead of me to go and check the power source to see if it is keyed in properly. And so instead of you to fight me go and check your power source. Most of you are not keyed into Christ appropriately. And probably you're not keyed in because of how you came to Christ. You came to Christ as an escape route from hell. You came to Christ because of miracle signs and wonders. You didn't know what you came into, and you have not gone to find out what you came into. I hope this video tells you to go back humbly, including me. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing, not having heard. So we are all learning this gospel and learning who we are and what we have. But what you will not do, what I will not allow you to do, is deride the finished works of Christ just because you are trying to make a point for the defeated side. Jesus remains Lord. What cannot happen to Christ as a believer cannot happen to me.